the goal of setting priorities. Become a more vigilant leader to pick up early on weak signals of potential opportunities and threats, and to be proactive rather than reactive. So we're not going to go along putting out fires. We're not going to say my plate is full. We're going to be open, and we're going to rely on the wisdom in our team and consider different perspectives, because we all see things differently. We have different stress levels and reactions at different times. And so I may not be able to see the forest from the trees because I become very anxious about a situation where a coworker, it's not bothering them or affecting them the same way. And something else may affect them differently, and I'm calm. It varies because we bring something unique to the table. So the encouragement is setting priorities collaboratively. And what makes the difference is vigilance. We are all vulnerable to missing signals, all of us. So we have to be tenacious and hold on. We give limited attention, competing priorities, and often we're just not curious. We say my plate is full, and I ignore a really important signal or potential problem. And later I regret it. So just think right now, take a pause and think of a time where you wish you had paid attention. You wish you had listened. But you were in this mindset of, I'm going to get my task done and nothing's going to interrupt me. And you didn't listen, whether it was your own intuition or the advisement of others. And this could be personal as well. I can give you lots of examples, personally and professionally. The longer we're at this, the more examples we have, because it's part of being human. And we want to remember, learn from it and move on quickly, because we can't change the mistake that we made. So just take a moment right now. What did we later regret because we didn't pay attention? We may frame reports as overly abstract, and that's easier to dismiss. And we lose touch with what's really happening on the ground. So from the perspective of the hands-on frontline workers, they know what's happening. And the more we get away from that, we lose the perspective of the frontline workers, and we need their perspective, because they can easily tell us what their priority is. And most of the time it's going to be different than a leader's priority. But the leader needs to connect with that frontline vision and help those frontline workers connect with the leader's vision. And really that brings collaboration to bring the two at a cross section where we can communicate. So what's the priority? You want to look at everybody's priority and then communicate the why for the collaborative approach that you're going to use for everyone. Stresses of others. There may be a reason that people are withholding information. Sometimes we're not thinking clearly with priorities, and helping our team do that, then we can all feel focused and refreshed, like we're moving towards something. Have you ever been at work completing a task and you don't know why? So this is part of getting buy-in from the whole team, that everybody knows where we're going and why we're going and why this is a priority. Everybody feels like they've given the input and they feel heard. Whether we're doing exactly what that person said, that's not what's going to happen. We're taking bits and pieces and we're integrating. So right now, what's happening in the organization? What's the reality of what's happening? And we're not going to try to sweep it under the rug and be like an ostrich with the head in the sand. We're going to face it with courage. That's hard to do. We're going to own responsibility that we may have not handled things perfectly. I had a student in one of my classes. I teach for the university, and I sent the email with the link for the class, And then in 2 days, I just piggybacked off of that email. And I said, just reminding you, we're having the class. I did not go back to the course registration and send that email. That's what I should have done, because he registered right before the class, which you can do that. Registration is open. So I missed him in the email. He had me in another course. He had my contact info. He emailed me. And so I sent him the link. He comes in the classroom. So I have all these business professionals there, and he communicates and he says, this is what happened. I was trying to get a hold of the university. I'm glad I could have gotten a hold of you. And I owned it in front of everyone. I said, that's on me. I apologize. I know what I didn't do, and I won't do that again. And I learned from my mistake. So that took humility. It was authentic. And it built rapport with everyone in the course. Sometimes we think, oh, they're going to see me as weak. None of us are perfect. We all miss it. So own it, and we move forward. And what's our priority at that point? And what are we going to focus on together? Because I can tell you that just built rapport, and people are more open to listening. If I had taken any other approach that I didn't want to admit that I made a mistake and made him feel like, oh, you did the wrong thing, then he wouldn't have been so open in the class. It affected his listening, his participation, his morale, all of that. So it shows a lot of strength to be able to just own our mistakes. What is the nature of vigilance? Corporate foresight. This is advancing steadily. Okay, vigilant companies, what are the characteristics? Leadership attention is leveraged with greater agility and advantage, whereas in vulnerable companies, misdirected attention creates blind spots, myopia, and delayed reaction. Our challenge is to deal appropriately with vast amounts of regular information while strengthening the ability to pay attention. So we're going to go over 4 steps to take action sooner than later, because there's a lot happening. And what do we pay attention to? That is key to identify that. What are the 4 steps? Scope to decide how widely to look. There are all kinds of things happening continually. Strategic scoping by leaders draws the organization's attention to the most pressing matters so that relevant inputs can be garnered from employees at all levels. One way to scope is by assembling a diverse team of independent thinkers from both inside and outside the company who can, as one of our clients phrased it, tap into the organization's paranoia. Invite everybody to voice hunches, concerns, doubts, there's that word, intuitions, that would otherwise remain dormant. Sometimes it's frightening to hear people's thoughts because we may feel a little paranoid. Really? You think that? And we've gotten that kind of feedback, so we're quiet. That goes all back to culture. How safe do people feel to talk? When you say, I want to hear your input, have you developed that psychologically safe environment? That's just so key. The leadership team can then shine a spotlight on issues that seem negligible now, but may emerge as serious over the next few years. 3 to 5 year time frame allows leaders to peer further ahead than your rivals, especially when few clouds are visible yet on the horizon. I really encourage the different generations to be involved, as well as much diversity as possible, because someone Gen Z that's grown up with all this tech is seeing things differently than a boomer or even a Gen X. We didn't have computers when we were growing up, or cell phones. And so you've grown up in all of this and you can see the future. You have a different vision from that Gen Z. Pull them into it and be very open to what they're seeing. Even it may seem just completely odd that they're thinking that way, that they are in a world that we need to understand because that is up and coming. We're moving quickly with AI, artificial intelligence, implementation of robots. And if we're not paying attention to that, we're missing it. The metaverse is relevant. That's something very new that I do not understand. I know I've seen The Matrix, and it's being compared. And this is the year of the metaverse, is what I recently heard. What does that mean? Well, those who understand it need to keep the rest of us on our toes so we can move and innovate with that. Focus attention with guided questions. Great communicators know how to listen and be curious with questions. Deciding on which looming issues merit close attention and why requires curiosity. Leaders must pose questions that reveal the limits of the company's current knowledge so that they can flag areas of collective ignorance and sensitize the organization to emerging issues. So this is a collective process for everyone to realize, oh, we really don't know everything that we need to know. And that is a weakness, not a weakness personally, a weakness of the company, something that we need to work on developing together and ask questions. So you're going to organize the questions in 3 categories. What have we learned from the past? Ask questions about the present. What is it like now? And you're going to anticipate the future. You want to be steps ahead of anyone else in your industry by thinking for the future, but you acknowledge the past, you look at the reality of the present, and then what are you going to anticipate? 1, 2, 3, make it very clear to everybody. This is your vision that's happening. One method of learning from the past is past successes to create watching and listening outposts in other markets by asking, who there has a consistent record of seeing sooner and acting faster? Who leads your industry? And you think, why didn't we think of that? Look at them, study them. What are they doing? Learn from them. What is their secret? Many companies interrogate the present by monitoring blogs, social media sites, and chat rooms for signs of brewing trouble with customers, with an eye toward timely remedial action. Pay special attention to customers' evolving behaviors and needs. Working with customers is not easy. We are pretty entitled in the US. When I'm on social media, I am in groups for Mexico, and people in Mexico from the US are just astonished that they can't take something back. And one lady posted the wine was bad, and they said it's not our fault that the wine is bad. In Mexico, at this new market that's organic. And so in the US, all you have to do is say, oh, we'll notify our supplier and get our money back. Of course, we'll give you your money back. But they weren't able to get their money back for bad wine. And Mexico does have good wine. It's the similar climate of California, great growing region in central Mexico, which is something that I didn't realize. So customers, we can be really entitled and picky, and we are being studied. And it's important to look at the behavior of your customers and the need. What need are you fulfilling? And that changes as our society is changing. And again, it's listening to your customers, listening to your team. Study edge cases that could suggest opportunities or threats. Edge in engineering describes situations that purposefully push the limits. To prepare for what's ahead, develop different scenarios that reflect how today's uncertainties might play out in years to come. Simulate scenario planning. Leaders should pose guiding questions about the future. So ask your team, what surprises could really hurt us or help us? What might be some future surprises as big as those that we saw in recent decades? And just listen to the different perspectives. scan actively to deeply explore. We have to be intentional about this. Today, I'm going to really work on prioritizing, listening, asking questions, and looking at different scenarios. What could we anticipate? Active scanning is built on the scientific method. It starts with hypotheses, which are then tested and revised based on the availability of new data. It's rooted deep in a sense of curiosity and exploration. So again, it goes back to we don't know, we want to know, and what questions do we need to ask? And we don't have all the answers. So we're going to say, what if? What will we do? What if that? What will we do? So we have a plan for either or both. Doing this type of scanning requires actively encouraging diverse and even contradictory inputs to ensure that all sides of an issue are surfaced. Sometimes we can feel really threatened by the contradictory view to our own. And it's important for us as leaders to really build that skill of communication, because when it starts happening with our teams, we can help our teams navigate it successfully. And they're watching what we do. They're not just listening to what we say. So when they see, oh, okay, Alexia listens. She doesn't always do it our way. She doesn't even do it our way at all. She's a creative individual, but she's listening to us. And I can see that she incorporated some of what I said. And she even told me that she appreciated my input, and I feel heard. That just really helps us as human beings when we feel heard. So we want to look at all sides from those different perspectives, and we want to see where are we intersecting with those different viewpoints. Not, oh, this person, oh, and this person, oh, but wow, they brought up two really unique points. I couldn't see them before. Where does that intersect for everyone, and for our industry, and for our customer, for our employee? And that's what you're doing. So we are going to talk about communication in further nano tools. Decide which signals to amplify and clarify. Here's your prioritizing. Through active scanning, organizations frequently identify many more signals that they can possibly digest. Leaders need to develop ways to highlight the most interesting signals. Canvassing the wisdom of crowds is one approach. Studies have shown that groups are often better than individuals at making accurate judgments. That's because individuals have only partial information, while groups of people with different skills are collectively smarter than the smartest people in them. Assuming the group doesn't have a collective blind spot that points everyone in the wrong direction, a diverse crowd will reflect the varying experiences and views of numerous people. So if you want to know your customer, have a diverse team. If you want to understand the diversity of that customer base, then you're going to get all those perspectives of all the different people from your team. And it's creating that culture that different isn't threatening, different brings innovation, and that's what the research shows. So these are steps to take to know what to prioritize. Basically, you're communicating with a diverse group from your organization and your customer base. You're utilizing the social media and the chat rooms for information. You're gathering all that information, and then you're looking at even the what ifs. What if this happens? What will we do? What's our plan of action? What if that happens? What's our plan of action? And then you're prioritizing. So if I know that robots are going to come into healthcare to take care of the elderly by the year 2030, then how am I going to innovate as a healthcare provider, and how am I going to prepare for that if I know the industry is moving that way? Really, for me, it's like, wow, that's a huge thought that is being talked about, that is in development, and to anticipate what that's going to look like, even though we don't fully know, and to explore that and to look at, Are other people even thinking about this? Well, let me see what's on social media. Are people posting about this? I look a lot at the World Economic Forum, and I recommend that you do the same because they are a forerunner for the future to tell us about those innovations that are happening worldwide. And it's important to look at the worldwide perspective. And then what is my place in that? What's my company's place in that? And how can I stay ahead of the curve and bring my company and my team into that era successfully rather than staying as an irrelevant dinosaur, because that can easily happen. We've seen companies that didn't move with technology that were huge 20, 30 years ago, and now they're not relevant because they didn't move with technology. It's the same thing with artificial intelligence, with robots. And that's just one area that I am thinking about right now, because a lot of people aren't paying attention, but we need to, because it's here. So stay tuned because we have 6 nano tools. Download and begin using this.